Hi, I'm Marcus with the IndieMusicLab.com. So today I'm going to share with you 4 rules for recording and mixing background vocals. Now, background vocals tend to be an area of stress for a lot of producers because it can be hard to, like, how many doubles do I need? Do I need O's? Do I need backgrounds? Do I need harmonies? It's like so many options. I don't know what to add to my song, right? So in this video, I'm going to attempt to really give you some clarity and help you by giving you these 4 rules, so break them at your own risk. Let's get into it. Rule number 1 is never ever use AutoTune on your background vocals. Now there is a caveat here. It can work to use AutoTune if it's a super poppy song and you're talking about vocal doubles, where it's just you have the main lead vocal that's AutoTune down the middle and then maybe doubles left and right that also have some AutoTune on them. That can work, but that's even then I'm a bit hesitant to put AutoTune on those doubles or backgrounds. But in this case, what I'm talking about specifically is like O's. So if you have a choir sound like this, like that, right? Please, in the name of all that is good and holy, do not auto-tune this, because let me show you. Let me show you what these background vocals would sound like if we auto-tune them. So first off, let's solo them. And I'm going to turn on an auto-tune on all of these 5 O tracks. Oh my god, that sounds so bad. It completely strips the life right out of it. So here's what it is without the auto-tune, as it should be. Oh, she knows what I think about, what I think about, one love, 2 mouths, one love. Not only does it sound much more natural, did you notice how much fuller and warm it sounded? Seriously, if you're doing any type of O's like this, or even harmonies where you've got this type of cadence, right, you're doing some slides and you're doing some stuff there, please do not auto-tune those. It's not going to make it better, it's going to make it worse. So that is rule number 1. Please do not auto-tune, especially any type of O sounds that you're sliding around for your background vocals. Rule number 2 has to do with recording, and it is be more shouty and loose with your delivery for your background vocals. And here's what I mean. So you don't want to do this as much on your lead vocal. You want your lead vocal to be more straight up on the melody, how it's supposed to be. But then for like harmonies and backgrounds, let me see, I think it's right here. If you look at these, did you hear that? It's too. I didn't do that for the lead vocal. For the lead vocal, I did. 'Cause it's too. Right, 'cause it's too. But for the backgrounds, I went, 'cause it's too cold. Right? So it's a subtle thing, but it conveys just that bit of extra energy and life in the background, in the back of your mix, that can just make your overall vocal production feel more alive, gives it that extra bit of variation and bending in the background, so it's not as uniform, if that makes sense. And the same applies if you're doing O's. So let's go back to these O's over here. She knows what I think about, what I think about, what. Right, I'm just sliding around. I have this slidey, loose, nonchalant kind of way of doing it. And that's very important for this kind of background vocal sound. So that's rule number 2, be more shouty and loose when you record in your background vocals. Okay, rule number 3 is always make these 2 EQ moves on your background vocals bus. So I've grouped all these background vocals together and I sent them to one bus, that way I can process them on the same channel. And there are 2 specific frequencies, 2 specific areas that I really want you to pay attention to when it comes to EQing background vocals. And on the concept level, what we want to do with the backgrounds is get them out of the way of the lead vocal. We want the lead vocal to take precedence, and then we want the background vocals to more just be underneath it, wrap around the lead vocal a bit. So there are two specific frequencies where this is especially the case, and it'll help you achieve that. The first is in the low mid range around 300, 350 hertz. I usually say between 250 and 500 hertz on literally every background vocal track pretty much ever. I will make a cut here, as well as the lead vocal as well. I'll make a cut here. But now for this song in particular, I didn't cut it as much as I normally do for background vocals, but the only reason was this has that super dark old pop vibe, so I actually wanted to keep in a bit more of that low mid weight than I usually do. But I still have a slight cut here in the low mid range. So here's what it sounds like. So it's this range. So just doing a cut there really helps to clean that up so it doesn't get too muddy in that range. The other EQ move you want to make is between 2K and 5K. You want to make a cut there for one very specific reason. The reason being 2K and 5K in that range is exactly where the lead vocal shines the brightest. So you don't want to have your background vocals getting in the way of the spotlight on your lead vocal. So on every background vocal track you do, make sure that you add in just a little EQ cut between 2K and 5K to give some room for that lead vocal to take precedence, is what I'm trying to say. See, it's this range. Now, as an optional third little EQ move you can make is doing a filter on the top end. Now, this is optional because on certain songs, you want your backgrounds to be darker. On other songs, you want them to be brighter. So for this song, this is a dark sound. So I obviously, as you can see here, I did filter it out all the way down to like 3 or 4K. So, but this doesn't apply to every song. So some songs actually, you may want to boost past 5K. Once you get past 5K, it can sound really cool to do a boost up in here to add that bit of air on the top end. Right, that can be cool as well. It just didn't, that's not what I wanted for this specific song. Alright, now before we get to the fourth rule and wrap up this video, if you've been struggling to get your vocal EQ to actually sound good and you've been dealing with making a bunch of blind EQ moves and boosting and cutting everywhere and it's not helping your vocal, then I want to help you and I want to get you some clarity. Download my free guide. It's called A Visual Guide for Fixing Vocal EQ Problems. It's exactly what it sounds like. In this guide, I've got 8 problems and then 8 solutions to those problems. And I have it visually mapped out as well. So if your problem is my lead vocal is too muddy, make this cut and you'll be able to visually see it as well. And then I've got 8 of those types of the most common EQ problems. And then I have this solution mapped out as well as visually you can see what that cut or boost looks like. So download that. The link is in the description below. I think it's really going to help you out. All right, let's move on to rule number 4. All right, the fourth rule for recording and mixing background vocals is this. Keep your harmonies simple, even to the point of being monotone at times. Now, what I mean by this is, first off, you don't always need harmonies in your tracks, in your productions. Make sure if you do add harmony tracks or a harmony track that it's actually adding value to the song. Now this song in particular does have a couple harmony tracks which are over here. So sounds absolutely terrible. Do you notice how monotone it is? I'm just riding that note and doing, for you here, doing some occasional little dips, but for you here, it's very monotone, it's very boring. So, but that actually, most of the time, that will sound better than if you're trying to follow the melody and play an exact harmony to the lead vocal melody. Just keep a more consistent, monotone, flat, sound for your harmonies when you're recording them in, and it can sound much better than if you try and overdo it. It will sound much better than if you try and overdo it. So, and another example is, so this is doing something slightly different, where I'm kind of switching between doubling over the lead melody and then switching to a more monotone harmony. See, so there it stays with the melody. Right, so that is really hovering over, and now, da 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 da. It's hovering over that note the entire time, except when there's the little melodic motif, and then it doubles over the lead vocal. You let me know for you here. And again, it's that shouty that we talked about earlier, where you have just a loose, shouty flow and delivery when you're recording these in. If you combine that with very boring monotone melodies, if harmony actually works, if it actually sounds good in your tracks, it's not going to sound good in every track, but if you do add harmonies, make sure that you don't overdo it, because most of the time a very simple monotone straight line melody works better than if you try and make it all sophisticated. So those are the 4 rules for mixing and recording background vocals. If this was helpful and you want to dive deeper, like I mentioned earlier, I have a visual guide for fixing vocal EQ problems. It is really going to help you out to get over that hurdle of making a bunch of EQ moves without actually fixing problems, without actually making your songs better. So I want to help you out with that. So download it. Link is in the description below. It's 100% free. Thanks again for watching. I will see you in the next video, my friend. Happy music making.